I'd like to ask the Minister his plans to improve service provisions in rural areas in view of the latest CSO figures are released in respect of measuring distance to everyday services, and if you make a statement on the matter.
Thank you for the question. The CSO recently published a statistical report on measuring distances to everyday services in Ireland, which shows how close people live to everyday facilities such as schools, hospitals, fire stations and public transport stops. The report shows that the average distance to most everyday services was at least 3 times longer for rural dwellings compared to urban dwellings. People in counties Galway, Donegal, Mayo, Leitrim and Roscommon had higher average distances to most everyday services compared to other counties. This is why we need policies to support our rural areas. 50% of our national population live in settlements of less than 10,000 people, and rural-based enterprises supports hundreds of thousands of jobs and contributes significantly to our national economy. Rural communities are also important guardians of our heritage, culture and our natural environment. It is important that we ensure that people living in rural areas have reasonable access to services if they are to continue to live and work in rural Ireland. Since 2017, the Action Plan for Rural Development has been delivering a wide range of measures across government departments and agencies to support job creation, investment in towns and villages renewal and improve the delivery of services in rural areas, taking account of the ever-changing nature of our society. My department is currently developing the next phase of the rural policy to succeed the Action Plan for Rural Development, which reaches the end of its life cycle this year. The new policy will reflect a whole-of-government commitment to a range of matters impacting on rural Ireland. My officials will reflect on the data in the recent CSO report in finalising the policy. In the meantime, my department will continue to support communities across Ireland through a range of initiatives. The funding allocated for my department has been increased from €291 million in 2019 to €308 million in 2020, reflecting my department's ongoing commitment to supporting rural Ireland and communities more generally.
Minister, by your own admission, the latest CSO figures confirm that the government is leaving rural Ireland behind with regard to service provisions. The CSO data published last week, as you have read out, on measuring distance to everyday service in Ireland makes for very sobering reading. Rural dwellers face distances that are at least 3 times greater for most services, as you have pointed out, compared with their urban counterparts. Meanwhile, for a supermarket, convenience store, pharmacy and a GP, the average distance for rural residents to travel is about 7 times longer than their counterparts in urban. People in rural Ireland are facing longer commuting hours to get to work. However, the distance they must travel to a medical facility or a 24-hour gas station are much more pronounced than in urban areas. These statistics are alarming and show how the government is failing to deliver public policy solutions that improve public service provisions and make living in rural Ireland attractive. What is most disappointing is the fact that these figures are unsurprising. Under Fine Gael, rural Ireland has been abandoned. The figures released today only highlight this. It is clear that the government's much-referenced action plan is not delivering, and the Minister must explain what steps will be taken to rectify the imbalance, to use his own words, across the country.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say to the Deputy, rural Ireland was never more alive. Not me, you're used quoting one set of CSO figures. I'll give you another one. The CSO have said more people working, more people living, more people now in rural Ireland than there ever has been since the foundation of the state. The department's funding allocation is... Wait a minute, I didn't interrupt you now. I did not interrupt you. The department, because I know you don't like to hear this, but I'm going to tell you, the department's funding allocation is increasing from €291 million in 2019 to €308 in 2020. The Rural Regeneration Scheme to date, and plenty of what went into your county, to date has provided €148 million for 110 projects, worth a total of €212 million. Almost 2,500 leader projects have been approved by the end of 2019. We expect 80% of the €164 million allocated for projects will be approved. Town and village renewal schemes spent to date €11.2 million. Funding under CLAR €14.8 million. The Community Services Programme €49 million. The SICAP Programme €43 million. And the Community Enhancement Programme €4.5 million to date. So I can tell you, Deputy, there was never as much money gone into rural Ireland. There was never as much money being put in. This department is working. This department is delivering. And I can assure you, we have a vibrant, alive Look, great people working and living in rural Ireland.
Way over time. Deputy Aylward.
Sir, what you call statistics are great things, and the way you use the story telling, the way you tell them is great. But if you're living in rural Ireland, it's not equally as good. I tell you that much. I don't begrudge my comrades in urban, here in Dublin or anywhere else in big cities and towns having their fair share of the spend. But it's the fact that the money that's being spent is an imbalance between that and what's being spent in rural Ireland. We're crying out for broadband. We're crying out for services for connectivity from village to village. We had under PSO, public service obligations, we had services that were stopped and gone and abandoned. We need those services back. Rural Ireland is no different than urban, and it has the same needs to get from A to B, C and D and E. And Minister, you must admit that under PSO there's not enough services being provided in rural Ireland just to get connectivity from town to town, and you can shout out and tell us all the statistics like the facts are different. And out there we need more connectivity and we need more services provided in rural Ireland, and that's a fact.
Minister, now in just 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Well, actually, I'd want more than 1 minute to answer that, but I'll answer them in 1 minute. You took away most of the service when you were in government. You forget when you were in government. Post offices, no? You took away most of the services when you were in government. You ran the economy to the ground. And well, I tell you, I'll ask you a question now. I'm going to ask you a question. Are you going to support us with broadband? Are you going to be saying one thing here in Dublin and another thing in Kilkenny? Are you going to support us? We have signed the contract. Are you going to support us for broadband? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Get